great to be here at the AOC. It may be the only AOC conference that I get to address, so I try to make the most of it and in a sense set the context of what we're trying to do in what's going on around the world. And the reality is that competition is growing, is intensifying. I was in India last week at a conference, and India is spitting out engineering graduates and maths graduates and computer science graduates at the most unbelievable rate, and they are obviously highly skilled and usually willing to accept much lower salaries than our own people rightly are. So we as a country, we're really being tested. Are we willing to do what's necessary to get our own people to a point where they can compete and secure those fulfilling jobs? So when people challenge the ambition we have, for instance, to create 3 million apprenticeships in the next parliament, my response is don't look at how much more that is than we're currently doing. Look at how much less that is than Germany is doing, than Switzerland is doing as a proportion of its population. The fact is we need to be providing many more, and that mainly means we need to be getting many more employers to provide them, not just the big companies that have the HR departments and have the ability to make these investments, but small, medium-sized employers, sometimes even sole traders. How do we get them to offer apprenticeships? And that's something that we're very focused on. I think there will be an important role for intermediary organisations, a bit like the existing apprenticeship training agencies. So people who can probably oftentimes be the employer formally of the apprentice and then place them with perhaps different businesses over the length of the apprenticeship, but critically people who are nevertheless still independent of training providers. So we have this principle that we're very keen to insist on, which is that the money is in control of the employer or the employer agency, as it were, and then they can shop around between different training providers in terms of who's actually going to provide the training for the apprenticeship. One of the things I think there's been a concern that's been expressed to me is that traineeships are a great scheme and they've now been tried and tested, but they're only available to a relatively limited number of students. So we've decided that from January now it will be possible for anyone who's got a level 2 qualification up to the age of 24 to do a traineeship, and I hope that will mean that we can now provide many more of them. I think they've sort of been tested. We now know why they work and what works, and I think we want to see many more young people being offered this opportunity, because the truth is there are lots of people, even sometimes 23-year-olds, who aren't really ready yet to start an apprenticeship or to start that entry-level job. They just don't have the basic soft skills that you need to be able to enter the workplace, and they will benefit from traineeships, and we want them to be able to do so. The other thing that has been, I think, probably the biggest subject of conversation for me since I was appointed has been the question of the duty to provide English and Maths tuition to those students who've not achieved a C grade at GCSE. And we've looked very closely at this, and we do think it's right that if you have a D, then you should be offered the opportunity to retake the GCSE. But that will be entirely for the student and the college to determine when, in a sense, in your programme of study, you do that. You have to enrol in the GCSE from the start if you've got a D grade, didn't get a C. But you don't necessarily have to take the exam in the first year. You could take the exam in the second year, or maybe you could take one exam one year and one exam the other. That's up for grabs, as it were. What isn't is the fundamental principle that if you've got a D, you do have to be studying for the GCSE again. What I'm particularly concerned about, though, is what if you didn't get a D? What if you're one of the relatively large number of people who get a less good result than that? We're not asking for you to study a GCSE again, unless you want to, and teachers think that you can pass it. But we are asking for you to study for a qualification, and I think we all recognise that the functional skills qualification isn't as consistent and as rigorous and as high value and as respected as it needs to be. So we're asking the Education Training Foundation to do a major piece of work with employers, with colleges, with awarding bodies, to come up with a set of qualifications that will be a true alternative currency for young people, so that even if you're not perhaps of the more academic bent, that there is something, yes, that's practical and relevant, but that's also really demanding and really respected, and which your parents will be really proud that you got.